Welcome back in here from Shaver Lake, from the original studio. This is where the channel started in 2021. I didn't have this as a background. I was sitting at the desk, which is just about 5 feet away from me. But we first started talking 49ers football here in 2021 ahead of that draft. And we predicted that the 49ers would take Trey Lance, and they did. And then they traded Trey Lance. And now things are very different in that San Francisco 49ers quarterback room. But anyway, I bring up the draft because the next one is approaching. It is just over a month away. And there's so much smoke ahead of each draft. And the worst is when people go to the combine and ask every single player, did you talk to the 49ers? It's like these guys don't even remember which teams they talked to and which teams they didn't. They usually talk to all 32 teams when they're there. 5-minute informal interviews, just quick chats. That kind of stuff doesn't matter. It's a waste of time on Twitter. It's a waste of time on YouTube. What does matter is the top 30 list, the 30 visits to the actual 49ers facility. We have observed in recent years that is actually correlated with whom the 49ers are going to pick. When you talk about the combine visits and you try to apply a lot of meaning to them, just remember that the 49ers made zero contact with Mike McGlinchey in 2018 before they picked him. So sometimes teams are going to want to keep their cards close to the vest. And I think that the 49ers are incentivized, especially to do so this year, because they pick at number 31. But, when I talk about them potentially wanting to grab an offensive lineman because there are a lot of holes up front, that's the trick. There are a lot of holes up front. I don't know if they're going to want to grab a tackle, a guard, a center, interior, exterior, and who you actually want to grab. I mean, that's going to determine where you're going to want to pick, right? And the whole game theory and the strategy behind it all means you can't let too many cards slip early. So all these interviews and visits at the combine, all that kind of stuff can be treated as smokescreen. It can be treated as noise. It shouldn't be taken all too seriously. We need to look at what actually has correlated with whom the 49ers have drafted in the past, and that is the top 30 list. So as part of my big roster or 53-man projection spreadsheet, I have now added a new component keeping track of all the reported NFL draft official visits, and they are down here at the bottom. We could zoom in. It's very makeshift, as you can tell so far, but we'll zoom in on it, and we'll see here. These are the players that have visited the 49ers or are scheduled for visits based on reports. A safety/linebacker from Oregon named Jamal Hill, an edge rusher from Western Michigan named Marshawn Nealand, a cornerback from Washington State named Shao Smith-Wade, a safety from Utah named Sione Vaki, and Malaki Corley, who's a receiver from Western Kentucky. Malaki Corley is known as the Deebo Samuel of this draft class. Take a look at this. This is really, really good stuff. I think I have to get my face isn't in the way anymore, but the title's out of the way. At the bottom, you have the x-axis, air yards per catch. So the longer the pass the particular receiver catches, the further to the right he's going to be. And on the vertical axis, you have the yak, the yards after the catch per catch. So Deebo Samuel in the NFL version of this is like up here in the corner. Well, Malaki Corley is one of the 49ers visits, top 30 visits out of Western Kentucky, just north of Nashville, actually, not too far from Nashville. Malaki Corley is right here. Western Kentucky's in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I drove through Western Kentucky on the way up to the NFL Combine, actually. Then I hit Elizabethtown, checked out that good coffee shop. But if the 49ers are looking for a future Deebo Samuel, Malaki Corley is going to be somebody that they're really interested in. Just an absolute bulldog after the catch. And he's been used in a very, very similar way as the 49ers used Deebo Samuel in the receiving game during college. So again, the visit list right here, it's part of the roster breakdown spreadsheet, because I think then you could take these names right here who the 49ers have hosted or will host on visits, and then you could try to plug them into this, the big picture look at the 49ers roster. And we can do a roster deep dive again if you want to. We can take questions. We can talk all about that happened today. The NFL rules proposals, I think that's something that we do need to get into, because that's something that I'll be covering next week. I'm going to be off to Orlando, so I have a little retreat here in the Sierra Nevada, but I have to fly across country on Sunday. The NFL annual league meeting, otherwise known, more commonly known as the NFL owners meetings, are next week. And the proposals, the rules proposals, are going to be voted on. So here they are. You can check it out. There are two that you probably already heard of. They're trying to ban the hip drop tackle, and there are some complicated new kickoff rules, which I can go further into, but I don't really feel like going further into them. I hope it doesn't pass, because it just seems like complete overthinking on the kickoff part. It almost seems like playing pinball if you're the kicker. You have to kick it within a certain part of the field, and then the guys can't start running on the kickoff unit until the ball reaches the returner, and so on and so forth. It just seems way too complicated. It's trying to encourage more returns and make them safer. I get it, but I hope they come back with an amended version of that rule before it is passed. But some of the other rules proposals that are going to be voted on next week: whenever a passer is down by contact before he throws the ball, or it's ruled that way, that's now going to be reviewable if this rule passes. The game clock expiration is reviewable when there's clear and obvious visual evidence of it. So I'm talking about game and play clock, not just game clock, but play clock on every single play. But obviously the game clock situation, that happened to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys against the 49ers in the 2021 season playoffs in that wild card round. Players who go in motion beyond center cannot block below the knee. That's another rule proposal that they'll be voting on next week. The ability to challenge a third time following one successful challenge is going to be on the table. The onside kick alternative, 4th and 20 from the 20. One issue I have with that is I think teams are going to go PI hunting if that happens. They're going to get 4th and 20 from their 20 as an opportunity instead of an onside kick. I think they're just going to try to go for cheap penalties downfield. And the ability to challenge any penalty within the final 2 minutes. So that might be an okay one, but I just watched a Warriors-Lakers game the other day where, just glacial pace, because they're reviewing everything, and then the shot clock broke, and it was a total mess. At some point, you do have to worry about pace of the game. And when you talk about the hip drop tackles, I think this is the most controversial proposal right now. And Richard Sherman had a point about this. He said, "I just wish they forced the entire competition committee to create examples of how they expect a defender to tackle a ball carrier. I want them to act it out at full speed and create a video for the players. At some point during the creation of that video, they will realize how insane this is." Doesn't seem to be popular with players, especially defensive players. And yeah, my question is, how are you supposed to tackle? If you obviously you legislate out a lot of the head-to-head contact and the helmet contact, a hip drop tackle very specifically came to the sport of rugby to eliminate head contact. I think it's now illegal in rugby, but in football, you have to look at how tackles are actually going to happen if you do outlaw these ones. And I think that's the point that Richard Sherman made. Make the teach tape, see what you actually can do, and then see if it makes sense based on that. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with these NFL rules proposals, because those are just proposals. They aren't actual rules that have been enacted yet. But at the NFL owners meetings next week in Orlando at the Ritz-Carlton, we will have the votes on those, and we'll see if they pass. The 49ers did not propose a rule this year. Last year, the third quarterback rule was the one that was associated with the 49ers. I'm not sure if they actually proposed it last year, but they really wanted it to pass, since they were the team that was hurt by the fact that there wasn't a third quarterback rule in that 2022 season against Philadelphia. It is strong indication, the fact that the 49ers supported that rule so diligently, that they're going to want 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, just like they did last year. Purdy, Dobbs, and Brandon Allen, the top 3 quarterbacks for the 49ers. So anyway, that is a look at the roster. That is a look at the rules changes. We can do a further roster deep dive, or we can open it up to a 49ers Q&A. So here we go. It is one of those nights where the Warriors are playing. I get it. They're playing the Grizzlies right now. I've got the grill lit right here on the patio. It's already dark. Unfortunately, I don't get the view. I got a drone flight in, though. It was fun taking a look at some of the scenery here in the forest with the drone. But I've got to keep an eye on the grill to make sure it's warming up. And when it does warm up, I've got to go toss on a double cheeseburger. Cooking for myself tonight. It's going to be good. Just a nice little rest, relaxation, few days here in the Sierra Nevada. I'm going to go skiing tomorrow. I tend to work from the chairlift when I go skiing. I cover the 49ers from there. Laptop is with me. It's in the lodge. If news breaks, I go to the lodge, crank out the article. But the chairlift is a great spot to tweet. It's a great spot to make some videos for you. It's awesome scenery. You're going to see Huntington Lake in the background. I think I'm going to visit Huntington Lake after I ski tomorrow. So we're going to have plenty of 49ers content. There was nothing today that was news for the 49ers, which was crazy to me. We had been so accustomed to weekdays being full of news for San Francisco, but we didn't get anything today. So free agency has officially hit the second, or one could even argue maybe even the third wave, just because news has slowed down to that extent. Justin Simmons is still on the board. 49ers still have a hole at safety, as you can see from the depth chart. I talk about the visits in the NFL draft. Those are the ones that are cooking, but we still have over a month to go before that draft even happens. So I'm ready for this 49ers Q&A. If Lynch doesn't get Brandon Ayuk extended before the season, do you think he's gone next year? Not necessarily. They could deem Brandon Ayuk to be extremely important to this football team and keep him beyond next season, even with a franchise tag or a long-term extension then. If they get an extension done now, they're technically getting it done early because they have the fifth-year option. But they, again, everybody wants a good workplace. Everybody wants consistency. The 49ers had a similar situation with Nick Bosa, who played 4 years, was a first-round pick, had that fifth-year option under contract, but they extended him before the season started, before that fifth-year option truly kicked in on the field. So I think the 49ers would most like to do right by Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk would most like to be paid earlier, but it's a business, and you got to find a way to make business ends meet. So I would never say never, even if they're not able to get it done before next season. Good evening, ABI. I think that's your name. Yeah, ABI. Plan for returner. You know, they have this new kickoff rule that's a proposal right now. We're not sure if it's going to go through or not at the NFL owners meetings. It's such a drastic change that it might make sense for the 49ers to wait until after the owners meetings to see whether or not this rule is ratified, to see if it's worth it to, or not even see if it's worth it, but to see what kind of returner they might want to get. What's interesting to me is that after 2021, where the 49ers did not have a dedicated return man on the roster, that season was disastrous for the return unit. 49ers went out and got Ray McCloud. Obviously, McCloud has now left in free agency. He's with the Falcons. So it might make sense for the 49ers to bring in another specialist, given the fact they were traumatized by what happened in 2021 without one. You know, the Falcons' former guy, Cordarrelle Patterson, is still available, but he's going to be 33 years old next year. He still remained fairly available through these seasons, although his most missed games, I think three or four missed games in each of the past two seasons. His most missed games have come over the past two seasons, but he's remained relatively available. I'm just afraid that at 33, this is a guy that's starting to slow down, especially for a job that requires explosive athleticism as a returner. But this is one of the best returners the NFL's ever seen in Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean, he was an all-decade guy in the 2010s. Kyle Shanahan's been on the record in the past talking about how he's tried to sign Cordarrelle Patterson multiple times in free agency, including the last time before he signed with the Falcons, but he chose to go to Atlanta instead. The last time, though, Cordarrelle was 30. Now he's 33. I think from an offensive fit standpoint, it's at least slightly intriguing because Cordarrelle Patterson is running back. He's a receiver. We talk about Malaki Corley. We talk about Deebo Samuel. We can put up the draft prospect, Malaki Corley's XY axis one more time. I mean, air yards per catch, way down here. Yards after the catch per catch, way up here. I mean, he's an outlier. I think that Cordarrelle Patterson, in a similar way to Deebo Samuel and Malaki Corley, who's on a 49ers 30 visit, I think it makes sense to draw those parallels. It makes total sense that Kyle Shanahan has wanted to sign Cordarrelle Patterson as a return man before. But, you just have to, in this situation, also look at the age and say, this guy's 33. The production has been declining over the past couple of years. Would the 49ers be willing to take him on at an advanced age at a salary that's probably going to be higher than the veteran base minimum to be the return man? They do need a return man, but also those rules haven't been finalized yet for what that job will entail. So maybe the 49ers will still wait a little bit longer. Raymond says the 49ers need to work on getting a good special teams unit going, and they can't be using Deebo Samuel. Well, you can use him, and he's good at it, and he's a weapon, and he helped them in 2021 when they ran out of other guys to do it, but I get it. You don't want to wear out Deebo Samuel on kick returns, and you want the special teams to be better. This was the number 25 ranked by DVOA special teams last year. That is not going to cut it. That ranking needs to be higher for the 49ers special teams unit. It's one of those situations where they were 15 in 2022 after they put a lot of effort into it because 2021 was a disaster at number 26. Richard Hightower, their coordinator, signed with the Bears. They didn't renew his contract. And then the 49ers spent that 2022 offseason really focusing on special teams additions. And they didn't do that last offseason, but maybe they need to do that every offseason, given the fact that it eroded again after a bump up in 2022 following that focus. But if you look up and down this roster at the shaded players, the ones that are either in gray shade or blue shade, that means either re-signed or signed from another team. Chris Conley, big-time special teams contributor, was awesome downing those punts in the Super Bowl. Further down here, you look at somebody like Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be a big role on special teams. But Ezekiel Turner, special teams ace, 49ers picked them up. Chase Lucas, special teams ace, 49ers picked them up. Chase Lucas is probably a gunner alongside Chris Conley. Ezekiel Turner has blocked 2 punts in his career, including one of Mitch Wishnowsky. Now all that's remaining is that return man position. And we'll see if they're waiting for the rules to be ratified or finalized or determined before they make a move on that front. Odom is a special teams ace. That proves right. That falls right into my point. They signed George Odom in that offseason from 2021 to 2022 when they really needed to spruce up the special teams. And they've doubled down on Odom. He actually led the league in special teams tackles in 2022, had the league lead this year before he got hurt with the torn biceps muscle. George Odom is a player who it makes sense that they re-signed him to that extension because they're going to want him around for some time to come. He's very, very good at the special teams coverage aspect of the job. He's nice insurance at safety. You don't want him at safety. You'd rather have your guys in front of him healthy, but he's a multi-positional player, and he's especially good at special teams. Somebody like Ezekiel Turner, the linebacker the 49ers signed, he's like the George Odom of the linebacker unit, right? Really good on special teams. He's an ace there. But you don't want him playing at linebacker, but he can fill in a pinch if you're going to need him to. Scrolling through some other questions. Somebody asked me if there's a tight end prospect that I like. Jeremy asks. I like the guy from Kansas State. His name is Ben Sinnott. And I think that he could potentially also be a successor to Kyle Juszczyk at the fullback position. I think he could play both. He did some H-back work at Kansas State, but he's 6'4", about 245, 247 pounds. Fits the physical profile of what the 49ers have needed at this tight end position, which is versatility. Tight end 2 is very important. Tight end actually happens to be the position where the 49ers might be thinnest outside of safety. As you can see, safety is down here. They need another body there. That's why we're all talking about Justin Simmons or drafting a safety. They are planning to host Sione Vaki, the safety out of Utah, on a visit. But we also can see the tight end room here. I'm not slotting Cam Latu into the 53-man roster until I see a little bit more from Cam Latu. I mean, last year he just dropped so many passes over the course of training camp. Then he went on IR with a knee injury. We'll see if he has that issue rectified. But for now, the only 2 players who have proven their way onto a 53 have been George Kittle and Braden Willis. So obviously more is needed. So Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. Look out for that name in the draft. Do I think that Lynch is done in free agency? No, not necessarily. They can't be fully done because they've got 71 players right now. It's a 90-man roster, and they only have 10 draft picks. So even if they use all 10 draft picks and all 10 of those guys make the 53-man roster, which are 2 unlikely propositions, especially the latter, they're going to need to sign 9 more free agents. So they are not done in free agency, not by a long shot. It has slowed down a lot, though. Latu caught passes from Bryce Young while he was at Alabama. Well, he's not going to have Bryce Young throwing to him with the 49ers. He's going to have to do a better job catching the ball than he did last training camp. Go for broke wants the 49ers to go after Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's nothing better than ice water after a very physically strenuous day. I worked out a lot here today. Got the weights in. We're all good. I spoke to Hufanga at the Super Bowl. He said his rehab was going well. That's all that I know, though. I think that as far as timetables go, we'll probably get a more accurate one from John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan next week in Orlando at the NFL owners meetings. At tight end, Mike likes Jatavian Sanders from Texas. Texas has turned it around under Steve Sarkisian, the former coach over at Washington. We're asked for a link to the 2024 roster. Yes, of course. Here you go. Go ahead and check the comment section for a link to that 2024 roster. It is there right now. I'm expecting to see a flood of traffic to it. I just put it into the comment section. Thank you for the note. There it is. I don't think you could click on it on the screen, but you can click on it in that comment section. And then you could see that top 30 visit list as well in the bottom. If you scroll down here, I'll make that a little bit nicer as time goes by, format it a little bit, do all that good stuff. But for now, you could use the nice formatting for a 49ers roster deep dive. More questions are welcome. How's the Warriors game going? They at halftime yet? Probably not, right? Let's see. Warriors, Grizzlies. I got to check on my grill here too to see if it's warming up adequately. Now they got 4 minutes to go in the first half. Let me check on the grill. I'll be right back. It's warming up. We're doing well. Finally, the lump charcoal has caught fire. We're gonna make pizza later this week. I'm gonna have I should have a double cheeseburger show because I make a damn good double cheeseburger, and I also make some really good pizza. And I think I need to turn that into a video. I got some good drone footage here, like I said, of this area in Shaver Lake. Gonna try to share it with you over the course of the next few days. I got surprises for those of you from Fresno, from Visalia. There's a lot of good stuff coming while I'm in California. It's like a little week-long swing through California for me in the off season before I have to head back east for the NFL owners meetings. Then there'll be another swing in California come April. And following that, Europe. Well, there's a draft first. 2 trips to California in April, then Europe. We've got a lot of good locations coming up for the show. Okay, I'm ready for more questions. Let's go. 49ers Q&A. This is awesome. You've loved the 49ers since Brody. Well, I'm sure you liked the video that I did then from Kezar Stadium before the 49ers played the Lions. Why are double cheeseburgers better than cheeseburgers? Because of the superior meat to bun ratio. This is amateur hour. Meat to bun ratio is everything in a burger. You can't have too much bread for too little meat. You've got to have that meat in there to balance out the bread in an appropriate way. Some people will say that triple cheeseburgers are better. Some people like quadruple cheeseburgers. I was at Sam's on Broadway in San Francisco a few days ago, and they said somebody ordered a 6-patty burger the other day, and I said, that's disgusting. That's too much. The meat to bun ratio is off in the other direction there. So I say double cheeseburger. I used to do 4x4s at In-N-Out. I used to eat more than I do now. I have eaten 2 4x4s in one sitting at In-N-Out Burger, and I felt totally fine. The difference is that I was 23 years old instead of 35. So time slows us down. Father Time caught up to my appetite a little bit, but I will be grilling a double cheeseburger here in a little bit. Go for broke doesn't want a 49ers legacy draft. They don't want Brendan Rice. You could go Frank Gore Jr., Brendan Rice, Luke McCaffrey. That'd be a cool 49ers legacy draft. Would they all be great on the field? Well, according to Grow for Broke, he's not into the USC receiver, Brendan Rice. Am I excited about the receiver Netflix series coming out? I'll definitely watch that. They had George Kittle mic'd up, and I'm sure they had Deebo Samuel mic'd up a lot this past season. Obviously, they'll be mic'd up again this year. I think it's cool that George Kittle is part of it, despite the fact he's not technically a wide receiver. I think that's a nod to the fact that the 49ers have this positionless offense. I mean, there was a time, George Kittle in 2018, maybe even 2019 as well, where he led the entire league in yards per route run. Like, I'm talking wide receivers as well. He was putting up Julio Jones type efficiency numbers, like prime Julio efficiency numbers. Since then, the 49ers have racked up more weapons, so the ball doesn't go to George as often. And that's okay. Their offense is better than it was back then. But this guy, he should be considered in that bucket with receivers for all intents and purposes. He is that good. When will we see Margot on the show again? You got to tweet. She's currently not here right now. She's in Florida as we speak, but she's working on her own sport right now in Florida as we speak. But if you tweet at Lombardi herself, then here, let's go to Margot's Twitter page. We could peer pressure her into joining the show again. But no, anyway, she's not here at the moment. I'm sure she'd be happy to join the show when the time comes. Oh, she thinks she's funny. Here. Go to Lombardi herself. This was her post. Is that my husband breaking 49ers news from the ocean while on vacation? This was from the Florida Keys. Yeah, that was me talking about Colton McKivitz's contract extension. That actually happened. Water was warm. People giving me a hard time for wearing a shirt in the water, but you guys know I don't wear a shirt in the water when I swim, but I was literally doing a Colton McKivitz contract extension update. And it turned out that the news that I was reporting was accurate. So anyway, tweet Lombardi herself and tell her that you want her on the show, and we'll get her back on the show. It'll be good. She's just not here right now, so we can't have her on the show this very minute, but at some point soon. That was the McKivitz extension news. His cap hit this year is, I just reported this the other day. We should take a look at the salary cap sheet. Here it is. Get this big up on the screen. McKivitz's number this year was lowered by the fact that the 49ers extended him. It's now $2.91 million. People are all up in arms about this, but it was actually a cap maneuver to get the 49ers a cheaper deal this year. Gave McKivitz some security, gave the 49ers more cap space, down from $3.6 million to $2.9 million. Still swing tackle money, gives the 49ers the ability to swing big and improve that position. All right, enough about Margot. Go for Broke thinks Dobbs is a great pickup for QB2. I mean, cheaper than Sam Darnold was last year. Good player, started 12 games. I don't see what else you can expect out of a QB2. I think they've got a damn strong QB room. What does my dad raise on his farm and ranch? Got some oranges. They got some prunes. They got some grapefruits, all of the above. Well, we'll go through that. We got some more video content coming. I just haven't had a chance to process it all, but it was fun to do a few shows from there over the past 2 days. I did a video about the linebackers with Greenlaw out. I think Devondre Campbell is a good little intermediary. It's a stopgap for the 49ers. I think Demetrius Flanagan-Foles is a good special teams player. I think they need development out of D. Winters and Jalen Graham. I think Ezekiel Turner is going to take a roster spot because of how good he's on special teams. I think they've done their best to insulate that room in case Dre Greenlaw does start the season on PUP. Can the 49ers land a game-ready offensive lineman with their first pick? There's so many good offensive linemen in this draft that I think it might be possible at 31. I think somebody like Graham Barton might be ready to deliver right away, and I think he might be around then. That's somebody who I've talked about a lot. But I wouldn't be surprised, given how crowded that 49ers roster is. When you look at the projection, I'm going to have a big piece coming tomorrow. When you look how crowded it is, I wouldn't be surprised if they take some of their 10 draft picks, combine them, trade up, maybe even trade a future year's pick to go and grab a tackle or somebody that truly is plug and play. Thank you to DJ. Michael loves the Floyd signing. Lindsay, amazing. Cool stuff. All right. Why don't you take a look at the salary cap sheet? I need to go take a quick look at if the grill is ready. Be back in a second. It's almost there, but we can keep on going. Grill is working its way to where we need it to be. Warriors at halftime yet? Because I know a ton of you always walk in through that door when the game up 30 seconds from halftime. Guarantee you that the crowd size is about to go up at halftime. Just how things work. Some crossover between 49ers and Warriors fans. Marvin's tired. Everybody say good night to Marvin. Bye, Marvin. Nate says, just restarting the video. Remember all the live videos with 30 videos in that house with a couple cooking videos in there. Been a fun ride. So Nate remembers the good old days. Nate remembers back in the day when I started out in the corner over there. Yeah, that's where I reacted to the draft where they picked Trey Lance. We're going to get some good cooking stuff. Well, next couple days, I'll make some pizza. It'll be fun. I think the production quality has gotten better over the years, which is nice. All right, Warriors are at halftime. I'm looking for that bump. I'm looking for these Warriors fans to show up and watch the channel over the course of halftime. Looks like they're up by 10 against Memphis. Everybody's saying good night to Marvin. That's good. I love the manners. Do the 49ers need a shutdown cornerback like when they wanted with Deion Sanders? They got a shutdown guy. They have Charvarius Ward. They need good quality cornerback depth so they could move Deommodore Lenoir inside, so the nickel's taken care of. I think Isaac Yiadom is a very intriguing player in that regard. But I also think they need to think about the future at the cornerback position, and that means potentially using a good draft pick on a corner this year because both Ward and Lenoir are on expiring contracts. This is the final year of their deals. Might be asking too much to be able to re-sign both of those guys. So I do think that the 49ers are in position right now to where it would be wise to think about stocking that cornerback room. I don't think you need to trade for a Deion, but I think you do need to go out there and make sure there's quality being piped into that room. I think the 49ers were really encouraged by Robert Beal Jr.'s development last year. I was down at practice. I would always hang out by Chris Kasarik and those defensive linemen. And he seemed really enthused by how Robert Beal Jr. was getting off the ball toward the end of the year. And that, that's what they saw in this guy. They saw the get off right at Georgia. Didn't play in the scheme that the 49ers thought best suited him in college, but the team really does believe that he is going to be in position to be in that kind of scheme now. And after the hamstring injury in training camp last year, he worked his way back over the course of the season, earned his spot onto the 53-man roster. They activated him from IR, showed them enough to do that. He took up a valuable space, and I think he impressed the 49ers at practice. Hit that like button. Hell yeah, let's do it. I just texted Mike a Wolf of Wall Street quote. We'll keep that quote between me and Mike right now, but something funny happened. Colin, is Caitlin Clark the Steph Curry of women's basketball? She's really good. I think she's revolutionized the way that we've seen three-pointers go down in the women's game. So it's been pretty fun to watch. If you want to make that comparison, I think that you can. Antonio, thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks, Antonio. I have heard about Trent Williams receiving flack over the retirement of Leighton Vander Esch, and it is only coming from people who do not know football. Trent Williams did absolutely nothing wrong on that play. In fact, it was Micah Parsons is the one that hit his own teammate. It was friendly fire that likely inflicted the blow that led to Leighton Vander Esch's retirement. Trent Williams did absolutely nothing wrong, and anybody insinuating that he did just doesn't know the game and should not be speaking about it on a public platform. Just because you have a microphone that you can buy off of Amazon doesn't mean you should sit down and talk about football. I think I'm qualified. That's just me because I talk to these guys and I try to learn. But some of these people tweeting, talking about Williams and Van Der Esch do not know what they're talking about. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. I mean, it was a complete, it's obvious it was a complete accident. Williams was just following through on a block. It was a friendly fire incident with Van Der Esch and Micah Parsons. Go for Broke needs to hang out. I'm glad I started earlier this day because Go for Broke wouldn't have been able to watch the show if he needs to head out right now. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you can catch the end of the show later. I don't know if he posted a trivia question today, but those are always fun. Lump charcoal grill, it's an egg, and I just lit it the old-fashioned way, a couple of fire starters, so it's taken a while to get up to full temperature right now. But I'm keeping an eye on it. It's right there on the deck. That's where the nice view is. I've done some shows on that deck. It's just to the right. By the way, behind me, yesterday I pointed out the national park photo posters. Those are good, right? You like those? But also behind me, 75-inch TV. Theoretically, I could put the Warriors game on it, and you guys can watch the Warriors while I do the show, but then I'd probably get a copyright issue. I don't want a copyright issue. I don't want to play the NBA on YouTube, and then the NBA say, oh, well, what are you playing the NBA for free on your YouTube channel? Who's the free safety next year with Hufanga coming back off injury? I think they still might sign somebody. That's why the Justin Simmons rumors are there. You know, it's one of those things where there's a clear spot on the roster for the 49ers and with their cap space for the 49ers to take a big swing. Here you go. This is the cap space. I project them to have over $32 million on the 53-man cap. So they could carry that over. They could trade for somebody during the season. This is after the $18 million in Calvary money comes, the Eric Armstead reinforcement money on June 2nd. But this right here means they could take a swing if they so choose. Now, Justin Simmons is 30 years old. Justin Simmons, though, has more picks than anybody in the NFL. He's a true ball hawk since 2018. So when you have that kind of production, a player that's so good overall, all pro caliber talent available, if you can get him at the right price, he could fit into this safety room. I think there's a natural fit there. You have Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga coming off the ACL, and George Odom. So I think it's a good question. I think the 49ers might still take a swing there. I get these questions a lot. Any chance the Niners pick Luke McCaffrey? I think that's a really legitimate shot. I think that's more likely than Brendan Rice. But my mock draft that I made earlier, I had the legacy mock draft. I had the 49ers. Maybe I could pick it, show it to you guys here. Because the legacy draft, that's worth putting up on the screen. Here we go. So to answer this question, here is my 49ers mock draft. I'm not the biggest mock draft fan, so I like to have fun with them. But I picked Graham Barton from Duke, the offensive lineman, versatile guard, played left tackle for Duke, played everywhere for Duke, guard, center, tackle, probably a guard at the NFL level, but I think adaptability is in vogue in the NFL for the offensive line now. Could potentially be a center, smart guy. Adisa Isaac, edge rusher out of Penn State in the second round. All right, then I picked Brendan Rice. I picked Jerry Rice's son in the third. I picked Ben Sinnott. I talked about him, potential tight end and fullback option. I picked Luke McCaffrey in the 5th round. I think that'd be great value for a player who's just now blossoming into a receiver, was a quarterback earlier in his career, switched to receiver over there at Rice. And look who I picked last, 249, Frank Gore. It'd be cool if Frank Gore called his own son to let him know he'd been drafted by the 49ers. Frank Sr. is with the Niners now. Oh my God, we got some Orlando food. I'm going to Orlando. I'm going to try to find some food. What part of Orlando are you staying in? But the owners' meeting's at the Ritz-Carlton by the Grand Lakes, I think kind of near Disney World or SeaWorld. I think they're near SeaWorld. I don't know how far Disney World is. Maybe all the theme parks in the same spot. But hit up Pig Floyd's Asian Barbecue Fusion, Black Bean Deli, and 7 Bites, Southern Food Bakery, if you're close to them. I will try to go to those places. I have actually scheduled my flight on Wednesday to be later in the evening so I could hit up a couple of Orlando food spots just for you guys. Because I know some of you probably take your families out there to Disney World and SeaWorld and the theme park, so you probably want some good food recommendations as well. You want me to do a show with Mike Silver? I think that'd be fun. I'll text him right now. Maybe we'll see if he wants to come on in the next couple days. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Why don't we get Mike Silver on? Seems like a good way to wrap it up. Everybody, thanks for watching. This has been good. Not a lot of news for the 49ers right now, but we're still able to get a good show up there. Got over 400 of you, so it's been fun. And we'll talk to you all very soon.